Hi, everybody. This is Mr. Risk. This week we are going to be talking about supply in economics. Okay, so last week we talked about demand. This week we're going to talk about supply and have some questions, have some things to turn in for econ. Again, I hope everybody's doing well. I hope you're staying safe, and I look forward to seeing you next year. Just so you know, for seniors, last day for grades is May 20th. So you'll get this on the 6th, and then you have 2 weeks, 2 more weeks of assignments. Grades are due the 20th. And then juniors, it'll be due the 27th. Okay. So just like last time, also, I'm going to ask you to turn this in by the 11th. Okay. So that'll be next Monday. The reason I'm doing that is so I can see how well you're understanding it and kind of maybe some things that I need to go back with and reteach. So to start, supply. Okay. So supply, the ability and willingness to make things available for sale. Okay. So remember, demand is things that people are willing and able to buy. This is kind of the opposite. This is businesses, things that they're willing and able to sell. So demand deals with buyers, supply deals with sellers. So when you think supply, think sellers, think businesses, right? Like Hy-Vee, Walmart, Aldi. Those businesses think about supply, and then consumers, like you guys, when you go buy stuff, you think about demand. Okay. All right. So the law of supply, the belief that as the price of goods rise, the quantity supplied will rise too. Okay. I'm going to say that again. The belief that as the price of a good rises, the quantity supplied will rise also, right? So if a business can sell something for a lot of money, they're going to increase their quantity, increase the number of things that they're selling. Okay. So we use shoes as an example a lot. If you're a business and you can sell shoes for $20, you're going to have some available for people to buy. If you can sell the same shoes for $100, you're going to have a lot more in stock, right? You're going to try and increase the quantity supplied. When the price of goods goes up, the producers will make more. So, supply schedule. So let's look here. Okay, so we talked about a demand schedule, how that's kind of like a table. The supply schedule is kind of the same thing. Price per flower, $1, they're going to sell 50. $2, sell 100. $3, sell 150. And for $4, they're going to have 200. Okay, so the more it costs, the more quantity they're going to have. So supply schedule is a way to show the law of supply using a chart. It shows the quantity, the number of a good offered at each possible price. Okay, so the quantity offered at each price. The supply schedule is usually a table that explains how much a business will produce. Okay, so again, as things cost more, businesses are going to try and sell more. Okay, this is again that opposite of demand. Supply curve, a graph that shows that suppliers are more willing to sell at higher than lower prices. Okay, so the more something costs, the more they're going to try and sell it. Remember, the demand curve goes down. That's how I remember it. I think that's a really easy way to remember it. So if we were to have both lines here, demand would be like this. Demand always goes down. And then just remember that supply is the opposite. Supply goes up. So Elasticity of supply, the measure of how changes in price affect the quantity of supply. Okay, so there's our rubber band that we used last week, elastic. If something's elastic, it's going to stretch more, right? You might have a pair of shorts that have elastic around your waist. They stretch easier. Okay, so elasticity of supply. We're going to talk about that. So when a change in price has a big effect on the quantity supplied. So something that's inelastic, the supply stays the same. Something that is more elastic, the price changes. So there are some things where the supply, that's how much of a thing, you just can't change, right? So let's say you have a favorite soccer team, okay? And they're going to sell their jerseys. They want to make money selling jerseys that the players wore, okay? So there are 15 people on the soccer team. They want to sell all 15 uniforms. Now, if they're really, really popular, can they sell more than 15 uniforms? No, because they only have 15. So that would be inelastic, right? There's only a limited number that they have, okay? Now, something that's elastic supply, you can make a lot more of them very, very quickly, okay? So if something's more elastic, then the supply curve is more flat. If it's inelastic, it's more straight up and down, okay? Inelastic supply, when a change in price has very little effect on the quantity supplied. So again, that would be soccer jerseys. Something that you could sell really quickly and easily, you could use that candy bar, right? If it's easy to sell candy bars or easy to produce candy bars, then the more popular they are, the more you're going to sell. Okay, so that'll be more elastic. So I'm going to go through some examples of supply, and we're going to go through whether it's elastic or inelastic, just like we did with demand. Movie tickets. So think in your brain. Selling movie tickets, is that elastic or inelastic? So that would be elastic, right? So if a movie is really popular, it's pretty easy to sell more movie tickets, right? You can have more shows at the theater. You can, have more people fill up the theater. It's pretty elastic. It's easy to change. Nuclear power plant, okay? I'm going to show you what that is. Oops. Okay, so that's like, not maps. This would be like a nuclear power plant, right? So some places use this to have energy, right? To make electricity. It takes a long time to build one of these things. So a nuclear power plant would be inelastic. It can't change that much. The quantity supplied can't change. You can't build one really, really quickly, right? It takes a long time to build, so it's more inelastic. Flags. I don't have one here, but think about like the American flag, right? Flags from your home country. So think in your brain, is that elastic or inelastic? So it'll be elastic. It doesn't take very much to make. You can make it very quickly. Okay, so that's more elastic. Rare coins. So I have some coins here. Really old coins are rare. They're worth a lot of money. So coins from, let's say, 120 years ago, coins from 1900. Do you think those are elastic or inelastic? Think in your brain, elastic or inelastic? Those are inelastic, right? Because you can't make more. You can't go back in time and make more coins from 1900. All right, so go ahead and stop. I want you to read pages 79 through 84 in your textbook and answer questions 1 through 5. All right, so I'm going to show you where that is. Textbook right here. And the questions to turn in. So right here, start on page. So this, I gave you the summary. This is the summary of what we did for demand. You don't have to read that. I recommend you do just to review. But start right here, page 79. Okay. Stop here, page 84. And then questions 1 through 5. So start here and then end there with the questions. Go ahead and click pause right now in the video. Read 79 through 84 and answer 1 through 5. Okay, so hopefully you got those done. Going to move on to the next section of the textbook. Lesson 2, changes in supply, cost of resources and supply. Okay. So, give me 1 minute. All right, so when resources are cheaper, supply increases and the supply curve shifts right. So, think about it this way. Let's do our example of shoes again. Okay. Shoes are made, have rubber, have cotton, have things like that. So let's say all of a sudden rubber gets really, really cheap, right? Are you going to make more shoes or less shoes? You're going to make more shoes, okay? So when resources like rubber are cheaper, supply increases and the supply curve shifts right, okay? So let's give an example of this shirt, right? Let's say the stuff that's made in it, the polyester, it gets a lot cheaper. Supply is going to increase and the supply curve shifts right. Now we can do the opposite, okay? Let's say cotton gets really expensive. I have a hat here. The cotton, the stuff to make that hat gets really expensive. It's going to do the opposite. Supply will decrease and the supply curve will shift left. Okay. All right. Labor and capital resources are examples. Okay. So capital resources, right? So that's things that you need for a business. That's from chapter 1 a long time ago. Labor resources. Okay. So again, let's look at my shirt. Let's say you pay the workers $30 an hour to make a shirt. Okay. And the shirt costs $70. Now, all of a sudden, you pay the workers $10 an hour. Okay, so you're paying the workers a lot less. If you're paying the workers less, supply will increase and the supply curve will shift right. So labor is another type of resource, just like capital is another type of resource, right? So the factory, if you have a factory that's more efficient, makes stuff quicker, that is going to increase supply and the supply curve will shift right. Okay. All right, so how much people get paid and how much it costs to run a store, those things also affect supply. Okay. Taxes. So that is money that people and businesses pay to help the cost of government. Okay, so we talked about taxes a lot when we had a government class. So like sales tax, when you buy something, there's a small tax involved. There's taxes on your income, the money you make, taxes if you own property. So that tax money goes to the government and pays for things like police officers, firefighters, teachers, things like that. So money that people and businesses pay to help the cost of government. That's a tax. If a government wants to decrease supply, they could place a tax on the good or increase the amount that they tax it. So example, cigarettes, right? So we know smoking's bad, not healthy for you. If the government wants people to buy less of something, they increase the taxes. So if the taxes are higher, it makes it so people want to buy less of it, right? That makes sense. So let's say without a tax, a pack of cigarettes is $3. With a tax, it's $6. So people are less likely to buy it when the government places a tax on it. The opposite is a subsidy. So that's money that the government gives. So if the government likes a certain good or product or even a service, they might give a subsidy. So here are some examples of government subsidies. So again, that's money that the government gives. Oil, okay, oil is subsidized. The reason why oil and gas is the price that it is in the US is that it is subsidized. The government pays money, so it's cheaper for us. Agriculture, right? So agriculture is a really big deal in the in Iowa, like corn, soybeans, things like that. The government pays money to farmers. They give them subsidies so that it's cheaper. Farm exports, right? So we import and export things. Agriculture kind of goes in that. Even things like tractors and things that help the farming industry, right? Those are also subsidized. Automobile market, that is also subsidized. Okay. Price support. A government guaranteed minimum price farmers receive for their products. Okay. So if farmers are producing a certain good like corn or eggs or something like that, that is a guaranteed minimum amount that the government will give. Okay. It's a type of subsidy to increase supply. All right, go ahead and read the next pages in your book. Okay, so 85 through 87. All right, I'll show you what those look like. 85 through 87. And then answer questions 6 through 9. Okay. Questions 6 through 9. Okay, and then we'll get to the last section. Go ahead and pause your video. All right, here we go for the final section. The law of variable proportions. The belief that in the short run, changing one of the inputs changes the output. So input, those are things that go into making the product, right? So I gave that example of this hat. Cotton would be an input. Elasticity or elastic would be an input, right? It's stretchy. And then the output is the hat itself. The output would be the shirt itself. So changing one of the inputs changes the output. Okay. Sugar and iced tea. Okay, so sugar, right? We know what that is. It's sweet, white thing that you eat. There's a lot of sugar in iced tea. So if you change the price of sugar, that's going to change the price of iced tea. So if sugar is cheaper, iced tea will be cheaper and the supply curve will shift right. All right, production schedule. A table that shows how the number of workers affect the productivity and marginal product. So let's look here. Number of workers, productivity of workers, and then the marginal product. So this is the number of workers. This is how much they make. So let's say we're doing corn, right? Like ears of corn, things of corn. With one worker, they can produce 10 ears of corn and they'll make 10 for that one worker. Now, with two workers, you have 25 ears of corn. That's 15 more because you added that extra worker. Okay, with one worker, let's think about it this way. One worker does like the watering, the planting. The other worker maybe brings stuff, lifts it over for that first worker. So it's not that they're making twice as much with two people, they're actually making more. So with one person, you produce 10. So your marginal product is 10. With two people, you make 25. Your marginal product is 15. Three people, you make 50. Marginal product is 15. So with that one extra person, you made 25 more. Let's give it a different example. Let's say hamburgers, right? You work at McDonald's. One person makes 10 hamburgers an hour. Two people make 25. So one person deals just with the buns, with the bread part. One person deals just with the meat. It's more efficient, so they make 25 units. The marginal product of hamburgers would be 15 because that one extra person meant that the McDonald's was able to produce 15 more hamburgers. And it keeps going up and up like that, okay? All right, we're gonna go to the next part. Marginal product, the extra amount produced by adding one resource to production. So each one person, it went up by 10, 15, 25, 40, 60. Okay, so this is the first stage. So from having if you have 5 people, you make 150 hamburgers. With 4, you make 90. Okay, so that might be because if you have 5 people, each person has one job. Like one is with the buns, one is with the meat, one is with the, I don't know, lettuce and ketchup, and then the other 2 people carry stuff, move it in and out, things like that. So with 5 people, you can actually make 150 hamburgers, but with 4, you can only make 90. So the marginal product of a 5th worker is 60 more hamburgers. Okay, so just stop and think about that for a little bit. Each person you add, okay, they're able to produce more of the good. And we're going to talk about these next stages here in just a minute. Increasing returns, that's the stage 1. When adding resources increases production. Okay, so each resource, in this case number of workers, is increasing production. That's this first part there. Diminishing returns. When adding resources is not always a good thing, it can cause production to slow slightly. So again, let's give that example of a McDonald's that's producing hamburgers, right? If you have 9 or 10 people there, they're going to be running into each other, bumping into each other, maybe talking too much. And then you actually make less hamburgers. That's a possibility too, that you can actually be less efficient with more people. Okay? So that's diminishing. Oh, sorry, I messed that up. That is diminishing returns here, stage 2. And then negative returns, when adding resources causes a product to be less profitable. That's this third part here. Stage 3, negative returns. This is stage 2, diminishing returns. You're not getting so much more productive with adding one worker. You're getting a little bit more productive on stage 2, diminishing returns. Okay. Marginal costs, the cost of producing one more unit. Okay. So it's how much it costs to make one more of whatever it is. So let's do that example with McDonald's again. It might cost $500 to make, I don't know, 1,000 hamburgers. But to add one more, it might be the same ratio, it might be different. Okay. All right, so marginal cost, the additional cost of producing one more unit. Okay, this one's a little harder to understand. You're not going to have to answer as many questions about it, but just kind of know that in your head. Okay. All right, so now go ahead and stop. Read pages 88 through 95. Show you where that is. 88 through the end, 95. Again, this part is the review. If you want to stop right here on 92, that's okay too, 88 through 92. That's what you need, you absolutely need to finish these last few questions. Now, once you're done with that, if we were in like regular class, we would do a lot with putting supply and demand together and kind of how they work together. But that's a bit more complicated, so we're not going to talk about that as much with class online. But what I do want you to do is just read a short article about it. Okay, so government and economics, the importance of supply and demand. Hopefully, I'm hoping that this is just kind of a review of a lot of stuff that we've already done. And then you just have 3 questions to answer at the end. Okay. All right, so that's all for today. Again, that's a lesson on supply. Do the best that you can. Turn it in by Monday. Okay, so that'll be May 11th. Seniors, after this, you'll have 1 more assignment, and then juniors, you're going to have 2 more. Hang in there, keep working. Let me know if you have any questions. All right. Thank you.